Mention your amateur career, and you had 60 fights, and nowadays people have 200, 300, 400 amateur fights.
Oh, yeah.
So do you think, was it a good or like kind of like a bad thing that you had not as many amateur fights as soon as you turned pro?
Even when I did it, I was one of the fighters, like one of the kids that had the least amount of fights. A lot of other fighters had a lot of fights, 100 and some, 200 fights. I started my career, like I said, a little later at 14 versus others that started 8, 10 years old. I started at 14, and at 18, I was already turning pro, right? So it was only a 4-year amateur career. Most kids that, start a lot earlier have a lot of fights. They go through a lot of tournaments. So they're fighting, a lot of, I don't know, maybe 4 times a week sometimes in the tournament. I didn't have that. But just growing up in boxing, I kind of gained experience just from watching and the proper training and everything. So it allowed me to still have a good amateur career. I still had some really good fights. I was national champion, like you mentioned, in 2004 for the Golden Gloves, but then I was also national champion in 2005 for the Police Activities League, the PAL tournament. It was a national tournament. So I still was able to compete at a high level of amateur. I didn't make it to go to the Olympics. The Olympic round for me would have been 2008, but I turned pro in 2006.
Okay.
So I didn't get to compete for the Olympics. I decided to turn pro. I was 18. I didn't want to wait 2 more years in the amateur ranking system and tournaments. I said, nah, let's just go pro. That's where I'm gonna make my career anyways, or at least that's where I would want to have a successful career. The amateurs is enough to learn and move on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I decided to just turn pro.
Is it a long process turning pro?
No, you guys can. If you guys want to go pro, you guys can probably go pro yourselves.
Really?
It's not that difficult to turn pro. It's not like other sports, like NBA or other sports that are like really, really like. You got to be the best of the best of the best, right? In boxing, it's not quite like that. You apply for your license with the state athletic commission. You got to have physical exams performed by certain doctors to know that you're healthy to compete, and some knowledge of boxing experience, whether it's amateurs or just enough training with the right teams, with the right trainers. They'll give you your license. They'll grant you your license. Where they do pay more attention is the level of opponents that you're going to be facing based on your level of experience. So if you're barely turning pro, that's why you see a lot of guys that are turning pro or a few, 4, 5, 6 fights, still fighting guys that are completely like overmatched. Yeah. But it's because there's still only 4 professional fights in. The level's not quite the same. So they're able to fight guys like that. If you were to have, say, 15, 16, 18 fights, you're no longer going to be able to fight just anybody. They're going to match you up, or at least the commission will approve certain fights that are a little bit even matched. So that's where they pay more attention. But yeah, you guys can even turn pro yourselves.
That's so crazy to me.
I can have you guys on my next show.
Oh, yeah. Garcia.
I do Garcia Promotions.
Yep,
we just had one in January. We had a show on January the 28th. I think we might be doing another one in April. We might be doing it in San Antonio.
Okay.
But if you guys one day wanted to turn pro, we could definitely do that too.
Shoot. Shoot. I weigh like 60 pounds heavier than you. You think they would sanction it? Our fight?
You guys would have to fight individual fights, separate fights.
I mean,
yeah, the weight difference would be too.
Yeah,
if they give me headgear, I'm in. I'm not taking blows to my bare head, but give me headgear and 18-ounce gloves, and we'll do it.
We could do amateur fight. Amateur fight with the bigger gloves,
headgear.
We guys can do that one.
Okay. I might think about it. I might need you to train me.
Yeah, you might have to train us.
I need a full 12-week camp with you.
Oh my gosh. Fine. And then you got to go into like diet, and I don't even have a good diet to begin with. And you got to go to weight cut, and I don't even think I can cut weight because I'm so skinny.
We'll make it easy for you guys. You guys can fight at a comfortable weight.
Oh, comfortable weight?
Yeah,
comfortable weight.
Okay,
like,
so
you will lose a little bit of weight just to get in shape, but you don't have to, starve yourselves, to really cut weight like a major fight does.
Dang,
cutting weight sucks,
no more
man.
Chick-fil-A.
No more Chick-fil-A,
no
that's
more
for sure.
Oh my gosh. That's why I'm not a fighter.
I remember, so growing up, my dad's an Olympic athlete. He did judo. So I did judo too, and I remember I'd have to like cut like 1 or like 2 pounds, and like at that age, like you're cutting from like 80 to like 78. I just remember like cutting sucked. And then I'd get to football, and I was always like a bigger kid growing up, and I was like 10 or 11, and I was playing football with 14, 15-year-olds, and I'd still have to cut weight. Like, so cutting weight's not the funnest of things for sure.
It's one of the things that, from my understanding, no fighter likes to do. I mean, that's the one thing all fighters hate is cutting weight. We do it, you have to do it. And even though you have a good diet throughout your training camp and you're losing weight automatically just from working out and eating well, you lose weight. But then that week of the fight, some fighters are still 14, 16 pounds over. Some I've heard of even more drastic weight cuts that I've heard of fighters do. I never had that big of a weight cut. For me, it was always 6-8 pounds max. But no matter how much you have to cut, it's never pleasant. It's always ugly, and you feel sick, and you sometimes do get sick. I've experienced it myself. So cutting with the weight is probably the least enjoyable moment of a fighter's career.
So that week, obviously, don't do like water overload, right? Like you're drinking gallons of water.
Yeah,
and then
it's changed. See, the strategies and the methods that we use for cutting weight now are very different than what my brother did back in the day in his career, and even further back. It's actually changed a lot to where it's a little healthier now by drinking a lot of water and maybe cutting the portions of food and the amount of food intake, versus back in the day with my brother. They used to stop drinking. They wouldn't drink water for like those 3, 4, 5 days.
Oh man!
And it's punishing to the body. It takes a toll. But that's the thought process back then. That's what everybody was doing. That's the process that every fighter would do to cut weight. Now, with obviously new training techniques and better education, in the sport and about losing weight and everything, you've learned to do it in what I would say maybe a healthier way. Even though it's not healthy, but the healthiest that you can possibly do it. You're drinking a lot of water, and then that 24 hour before the actual weigh-in, you cut the water and then you burn it all off. And I mean, it's a little bit better, but it's still draining and tiring, and you feel like you're about to die.
Yeah,
you feel sick.
How's like the sleeping? Because I feel like if you're going to bed like super dehydrated and like tired, like do you even sleep well at all?
I'll tell you
like the
one
day
story.
before.
I'll tell you one story. See, like I said, most of the times I didn't have a big weight cut. It was 6-8 pounds. It was fine. 6 to 8 pounds, not a big deal. Lose that and you're still pretty comfortable. But I'll tell you about one story. One time back in 2013, I was supposed to defend my featherweight title. I was trying to cut weight that week, and this is before we did the whole water. This is still old school method. We stopped drinking water, and we were working out for like 3-4 days prior to the weigh-in, and my body shut down. I couldn't lose any more weight. I kept trying. I did get sick from doing so, to the point where I couldn't sleep that night before. I didn't sleep a single minute of the night. My body was in pain, like literally in pain. My whole body was in pain. I would toss and turn around in bed trying to like get comfortable, and I couldn't. I would grab the remote to try to watch some TV and see if that would help. And I realized that I couldn't let go of the remote. My body was cramping up so much that I couldn't extend my fingers to let go of the remote. I would have to pry them with my other hand. That's how bad it got. So I know some of these fighters go through that every single time. I went through that one time, and I wasn't able to even make weight. I was about almost 2 pounds over. There was nothing else I could do. When people sometimes say, "Oh, he didn't even try," dude, you didn't know what I went through to try and actually make weight. You passed out. You faint. You wake up and you're on the floor and like, oh, what happened? So those are moments that I think a lot of fighters go through, but we just don't share them, or we don't share them enough. It was horrible. So I know that when I see some of these fighters and they're all ripped, everything, they're probably at their weakest moments, right there. at that scale, even though they looked all ripped and muscular and everything, they're at their probably weakest of the entire camp. The next day after they rehydrate, they're back to normal. It's crazy the way the body can do that. But that's part of, you know, being a fighter.
Did you fight that next day?
I fought that next day, yeah.
Wow.
In
Did
fact,
you win?
I won. We had a doctor come in and check, you know, my health because I couldn't make weight. I was throwing up. On the way back to the room after the weigh-in, I passed out again. They were holding me. So we called the doctor, and the doctor advised not to fight. He's like, you can't fight. You got to come into a doctor. You got to come to a hospital. You got to hydrate, you know, this and that. And I said, no, I can't. I'm fighting tomorrow. And they're like, dude, we need you at the hospital. They're like, I can't. I'm like, I don't want that. I need you to do whatever you can right now just to get me, you know, ready for tomorrow. So he did. He, you know, tried to help out. I was seeing blurry throughout the whole time from all the dehydration and everything. My eyesight was not well. I would see like double vision, like blurriness. I couldn't hear. I had that ringing the whole time. Next morning, my eyesight was normal, but I still had that ringing. After breakfast and, you know, resting a couple hours, then my hearing came back, and it kind of felt normal. So I told my brother, my dad, and the manager at the time, you know, I think I'll go ahead and go through the fight. I think we're good. So we went into the locker room, warming up. You know, I felt fine. We got into the actual fight. I dropped my opponent in the second round, and then I stopped him in the fourth. So it was a short fight to where the general audience, the general person, never knew that I was sick, how bad I was that night before and that day before. If you want to catch any of that, that's actually on YouTube. They had a building up thing. HBO had a segment called, it was named 2 Days. I think it was called 2 Days with Mikey Garcia. They did a segment like that with different fighters. Okay. It happened that they actually caught a lot of that.
Really?
But it was released after the fight, like a whole month after or whatever. And that's when people realized, like, dang, like he actually went through all that before the fight. Like you couldn't tell because I won early. Who knows? If the fight had extended to like the 8th, 10th round or whatever, maybe I wouldn't have been able to do so. Maybe I would have been so beat up and tired that I would, you know, be knocked out or something. Those are the risks that you're taking.
Whenever you're warming up in the back, was there a burn moment saying like a bad burn moment and a good burn moment saying like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't fight, like I'm sick or I got to go out there, I need to go put this guy away? Was there a burn moment?
For me, it actually happened the night before. Trying to cut weight, and we're in the tub, hot water, trying to, you know, lose some weight. And then as I got up to check the scale or whatever, I don't remember passing out. I just remember waking up. I'm on the floor, and my dad's at my feet, and I could see the worriness in his face and his expression. He's scared, and that's where it kind of hit me. Like, should I still be doing this? Like, this is dangerous. Like, waking up and you're on the floor, and you look around and you're in the bathroom on the floor, and I mean, that was scary. My dad was scared, so the thought did, you know, it did come to mind. Like, should I even go through this? Should I even try, or should I just let them know exactly what's going on? Like, I can't. Like, I'm done. But at the same time, I tried to comfort my dad. I'm like, no, don't worry, it's fine. I just kind of got a little dizzy. I'm okay. I'll be fine. I just got a little tired. I'm tired, but I had completely no knowledge of what had just happened. I completely passed out. As I got up, I just blacked out. And during the warm up, some of that came back. Like, are you sure that you want to just go in and go in the fight? I mean, you're putting your life on the line at that moment. At that point, you're really putting your life on the line. You're gonna go in there. You're expected to fight. My opponent had a record of like 33 wins, 2 losses, 30 knockouts. Like, he was a serious opponent, right? Former world champion, 2 divisions. Like, it's not an easy fight, and I'm not in the 100% best shape. So it does cross your mind. My dad was there, and he was, you know, trying to talk to me, and I kind of tried to actually comfort him more. I'm like, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. He's going to come at me thinking it's going to be easy for him because he saw me at the weigh-in struggling and all this. So he's going to come in, which is going to help me even more. He's gonna come in and I'm just going to catch him. It's going to be easier for me. It's not going to be difficult. And it kind of helped out that it did work out fairly short, four rounds. I was able to drop him and stop him, and, night was over. We won. We go home happy.
Oh, wow.
That's so interesting.
Great
Because-
burn moment.
Yeah, that is a burn moment, but like just the whole weight cut thing in general. Like, I don't know if you know, but there's this thing called 1FC. It's an MMA. It's over in Singapore, and they've completely outlawed weight cutting.
Really?
Yeah. So you have to take like hydration tests. You have to do all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of starting to make people fight at a more natural weight. Like you talk about, like when you're training and you're in camp, you're eating better, you're gonna lose weight, but like getting rid of like completely depleting yourself. So do you think, like, for you as a fighter, how diminishing is like weight cutting for you on fight night?
Look, we all do it, or I did it. The reason why we do it is not to try to have an advantage over our opponent. Like a lot of people think, oh, you're a weight bully. You're so big. Why are you fighting smaller weight class or whatever? It's not. That's not really how it works. See, if we're both training and we're losing natural weight from eating well, if we were to fight each other at that moment, fine, that'd be a fair fight. But if you're at a weight class, for example, at 140 pounds, 135 pounds, lightweight, right? If I'm fighting at lightweight and I'm walking around 155, so 20 pounds over, you're walking around. Naturally, as you're training, you're going to start losing weight. You're going to lose about 10 pounds naturally just from losing water and fat and training and eating well. Your weight cut might be those 10 extra pounds, right? If my other opponent was doing the same thing, that's fine. We would be facing each other. We're both equal. However, if I was fighting at 135, correct? I'm trying to make 135. And I'm trying to fight at my comfortable weight of 145, right? That guy at 145 in the fight game is not walking around 145 ever. He's coming down from like 170.
Yeah.
So he's going to be cutting down to 145, but by fight night, I'll still be maybe 150. He's going to be 165. And something like that is not healthy.
Yeah.
So in order for the fighters to, fight on an even playing field, everybody cuts weight because that the next day you're also going to hydrate. Both of you guys are going to hydrate pretty similar. There might be a few pounds difference. Sometimes for the most part, it's only a 4 or 5 pound difference. Still difference, but not huge. Some of these other guys do rehydrate a lot more, and then you see the big difference, 8, 10 pound difference. That's dangerous. That's scary. But overall, everybody's within, 4, 5, 6 pounds max. So it's not a big deal. In boxing, I know that recently, for the last few years, there's been some organizations that have also tried to kind of help the problem, if it's a problem. I know the WBC controls a little bit about the weight. They'll ask the fighters throughout training camp to show the proof of where they're at, how much weight they're losing, and keep a modest consideration on their weight. If there's too much weight leading right before the fight, they might actually cancel the fight because they don't want you to be cutting so much weight, within a short amount of time. So they're starting to consider that more. But I mean, from what I've seen and in my experience, my own experience, if you do it moderately, it's not such a bad practice. But if you were to lose 16, 18 pounds in the last 2-3 days, that could be dangerous because your body's so depleted of nutrients. It's not just water; it's just your whole body's depleted of nutrients, and you're fatigued, you're tired. You may not recover. You may not hydrate enough. Even if you gain so much water weight, you may not be fully hydrated well to compete and perform. That's where it can be dangerous. If you lack fluid in the brain, the punches are going to knock you out. You can go in a concussion. You can go in a coma. You can lose your life. That's where it's dangerous.
That reminds me of the Dominican Republic guy who actually got knocked down. I think his name is Picardo.
Richard. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard. Same thing happened. He went into a fight, got knocked out.
Richard Colon.
That's gosh, I don't even know how to pronounce that name. But yeah, he got knocked out a couple times and got back up, and like in the ring, he went into a coma, woke up, went back, and just
his life completely changed. He got hit in the back of the head a few times. The referee allowed it to continue. I mean, they might have taken a point away from the opponent or whatever, but they didn't put an end to it. And sure, after the fight, right there, he just kind of collapsed. They rushed him to the hospital, and it was from the punches to the head, you know. And then he ended up going to coma, and he's still not fully recovered. His life changed completely. He's almost like in a vegetable state.
Yeah,
it's very, very sad.
So sad.
And that happens also. That could happen when someone is super dehydrated, super tired, fatigued, and the lack of fluid and water in the body and the brain could easily do those same results.
Fighting can be so scary at the end of the day, just off of a weight cut.